In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
So I wanted to ask you, Tyler, speaking of things that are awkward and weird right now, like what isn't, but I presume that you were a Trump guy, Trump supporter, and
Yes.
now that Bobby Kennedy's in the race, are you kind of wrestling with that? Do you know who you're going to support next year? Are you still trying to make up your mind?
Well, I mean, I support both to as far as they
Mm.
can go.
Yeah,
So if it came down to Kennedy versus Trump, oof,
that's a
wow.
tough
I
one.
still, yeah, oh my gosh, wow. Um,
Yeah.
whatever the case, I almost feel like if I think Trump has to be elected because of what they tried to do to him. For them to have, they can't get away with what they've done or are trying to do to him, because that sets a standard or sets a new precedent in this country. That's like they have to be. We have to show them that you're not going to be the one who decides who we get to elect as president. And I think that Trump would, if he's smart and he doesn't make all these errors that he made in his first term, would make Bobby Kennedy Secretary of State or Attorney General, would give
Ooh.
him a very prominent position. But I mean,
Ooh.
I said that if it was Trump and Kennedy at the top, this country could not lose either way. And
That
I think
ticket
Bobby
would be
should,
unstoppable.
yeah, or just even if they were head to head, I mean, it wouldn't you.
Mm.
The country could not
Mhm.
lose. Really, I mean, it would be like a dream. It would be going from the worst, what do you call it, the best of two evils, or what do they call it? How do they phrase that? Jerry Garcia once said, "Voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for
It's
evil."
still
I love
evil.
that. Yeah.
Because
Instead of
it's
the lesser of two
true.
evils, I think if we had Trump versus Kennedy, we'd have like the
Wow.
greater of two goods, really, in the end.
Rick and I were talking about that recently, and I'm sorry he's not here for this part. But we were talking about, when Bobby was seeking the Democratic nomination as if he had a chance in hell of getting it. But if by some miracle he was the Democratic nominee and Trump was the Republican nominee in the general election, that I predicted that it would be an election, probably one like we haven't seen since the election of 1960, Kennedy versus Nixon, and probably as close as that
Yeah.
election. And
Probably not
yeah,
as contentious, though. I mean,
I
I
wonder.
think it would almost be like a consensus election. It would be like, how can we work with each other? You'd see the first, I'm trying to think of an election prior to that where I guess there was almost like they were more aligned with each other. It was almost like, it would almost be like
Mhm.
the loser of the race should become vice president. You know what I mean? Like that's almost a
Right.
scenario where that would be
Very
great if you
rare
could.
in American history that we would ever even have a scenario like that, right?
I guess you have to run with a vice presidential candidate. What would be cool is if
Mm.
like they, this is fantasy stuff, but if they said if Trump is vice presidential candidate and Kennedy's, that someone would run with them as vice president who'd be willing to resign, and then the other parties, losing would be appointed as vice president.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Wouldn't that be cool? Like, in other words, it'd be Kennedy Trump or Trump Kennedy, the
If it
administration.
was a Kennedy Trump ticket, they would be each other's assassination insurance, would they
Oh,
not?
of course. Well, I mean, they
They
don't even,
would.
it's like you have to really be just amongst the evil to even think this way. But I'm
I
going to
know.
tell you what, what sold me on Bobby Kennedy was not even this. I mean, like, again, what salvaged him in the sense, like, I mean, he was very, sort of doctrinaire left wing, I guess you could say, with a lot of the issues. I mean, things he had said, he made some very, caustic statements about Republicans and people who
Mm.
don't buy onto the climate change stuff, and I didn't hold that against him because I thought, he was thoughtful and well thought out. But what absolutely turned me around him was that his recitation, or his description of how his father was assassinated and what happened there is 100% correct as far as I'm concerned. I was like,
Mhm.
this man's telling the truth. He's not going to hide behind whatever have you, cower behind, well, just don't do it to us. We get the message. In other words, like these other Kennedys, and this, what is
Right.
it, Jack Schlossberg or whatever, the grandson of JFK, is a
Unfortunately, he's
disgrace,
JFK's
disgrace.
grandson.
disgusts me. I'm like, Caroline, that is sad. Get your son under control, because Bobby Kennedy is, I mean, it gives me goosebumps to think that we even have someone that potentially could be president of his caliber. This man is, I mean, I'm sorry, but he blew Trump away. I mean, in terms of, if you were to just say in terms of the knowledge, the historical, the thought, and I would have to choose Kennedy. I mean, I really would. And much as I love Trump and what he's done and what he's represented in terms of being like a battering ram against the establishment, everything. What I fear about Bobby getting elected is that, look, you're going to have a bunch of the Democrats, same so-and-sos just rush right in, and he's got to he's got to create a government. He's really going to go hammer and tong and get rid of these bad people? Because a lot of people are sort of like, they're all bored with the Biden stuff and all this other stuff. They're Trump deranged, who would be natural picks. So it's like, yeah, I know he might pick good people like a Kucinich at the first tier, but beneath that, is there really going to be reform, or are they just going to do what they did with his uncle, frankly, and they did with Richard Nixon, which is just, once you get past a certain level of bureaucracy, it's ossified. They're not going to dislodge these people. They're going to do what they want. And they're going to continue the evil and the corruption, no matter who the president is.
It's not easy to drain the swamp, right? Donald Trump sure as hell found that out.
No,
and Trump talked a lot about draining the swamp. I believe that Bobby Kennedy actually would drain the swamp.
Well, he's got the intelligence, and he knows, he's an attorney. Yeah. That's the thing, is like, he has fought these battles. And that's the thing. I mean, he knows the tricks. He knows where the statutes, the regulations, like he gets into the grid of it, where,
right.
It's one thing to go in and try to just, firebomb the thing, and get rid of everybody, or kind of thing. That never works. But I think Kennedy would know how to do it in very, very clever and logical, as well as litigious ways that they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't realize what it's coming at them, because he would make it, basically almost like ironclad, or watertight, I guess you could say. And that would be the advantage of Bobby Kennedy, for sure.
And another advantage, at least I consider it an advantage, is like his Uncle Jack, I think he would have a very bipartisan cabinet. I think there would be a lot of Republicans serving in his cabinet. He has a lot of Republican friends. What some people might not know about Bobby is that, as much as he's always had, I mean, he's got good leftist credentials, but he's also always had a conservative streak. He kind of admired Senator Barry Goldwater. He wrote the introduction to a Goldwater reprint book several years ago. And he's always, he's friendly with the Reagans. The Kennedys have always had friends across the aisle. Bobby, was a regular guest on Fox News for 20 years, still is. He's got a lot of friends on the right. And, that's what we need.
That's all you can say. He's a class act. He's not a zealot. He's not dogmatic about anything. He's willing to change. I mean, I like, again, we've never had a more nimble. To have this man running for president is a blessing, because I always said, God, I wish he would run, because of all the Kennedys, he's the only one worth a damn anymore. I'm sorry to say. His family, that have been public, that have run for office. I'm sure his kids, he's probably got some really good kids. I don't know anything about them, but I mean, you look like a Joe Kennedy and Ted Kennedy. It's like, oof, boy, they really they really did get rid of the good ones, huh?
And Patrick, remember Patrick? He was a joke.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh God, I mean, talk about, like, just come on, guy. You're right. You're a dry drunk, and now you're going to be Mr. Anti-Marijuana. Please, just go at sail off into the sunset and just leave well enough alone.
And the American voters had their say and got rid of him. They just they didn't connect with people.
He's his father's namesake. I mean, again, like, there's no other, and he's direct. He's his son. I mean, it's not like, he's the grandnephew of, even John F. Kennedy's grandson doesn't even bear his name. So It's just, to me, it's like kismet almost, that if he were to be elected, it would be like, wow, we can actually maybe, like, after all the horrors we've gone through since the assassination, and, where the country's gone, that his election, or his coming to power and being able to do the right things. And he's, I think he's smart enough not to be daring fate. I think I've heard him say the other day, I'm aware of the threats to me, and I'm not taking any chance. I'm not being stupid about it. I mean, I think John and Jack and Bobby were a little bit, sort of fatalistic. Fearless, but almost like, dude, you got to realize I guess
maybe even cavalier.
Yeah, cavalier. That's what it was. They weren't, and I mean, JFK was fatalistic probably because of his maladies. He figured, well, I'm not long to live anyway. I might as well just live to the fullest, and God bless him for that. But, and I think Bobby could have been a little more, after his brother shot, circumspect about, waiting in the crowds and just not having no like organized security. I mean, Rayford Johnson, nice guy, but I mean, that's not security. You know what I'm saying? Like, but nobody thought about this kind of stuff back then. But I mean,
that's true.
Before JFK, it was all up close shootings. So I don't know. I guess, his mind wasn't there. And in terms of like thinking, oh, they're going to kill me like that. And if they do.
Oh, he knew.
But
he knew. He threw caution to the four winds, Bobby Kennedy, on that 68 campaign. You've seen the footage of him going into huge crowds in an open car, right? He's standing.
There was so much love. I guess he just didn't think,
absolutely.
He
trusted the people.
Yeah.
He was like, I know that the people are not going to hurt me.
I'll show you. We can go on, but I want to show you this.
This
it's upside. People say, why is this upside down? Well, I bought this from, it was an estate sale or it must have been part of an estate in Washington. This is obviously, Bobby Kennedy for president, a button. This is a bumper sticker, but if you flip it over, I don't know if you can even see it. Let me see.
It's a little bit of glare, but
okay. Let's see.
Back it up.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's see. Let me see if I can turn this light a little bit.
I love it. I'm a collector of memorabilia too, so I'm fascinated by that.
Let's see.
What am I looking for? Oh, is it signed?
It's
got
signed.
Writing on it.
Yeah. Yep. It sure is.
Signed by Bobby Kennedy. Looky there.
Gosh. Wait.
I can almost see it with the light. Wow.
Let me turn it towards. Let me bring the light back up again. See. Okay. Turn it away. It's right.
I can kind of make out the signature.
So it says, I'll just read it because it's probably too hard. It's faint, but it says,
wow.
It says, sorry, for Kelly, we need you right now. And it's Robert Kennedy. You can tell he just quick signed it. But here's the thing about it is that the Union label on this, or the label on this bumper sticker is LA, California.
Oh my goodness.
So this could be one of the last things he ever signed.
I think it probably was.
It probably was. Yeah. I mean, it says a beat up bumper sticker. We need you right now. I mean, and that's exactly what he was saying. It's clear. It is no question the authenticity of it. I mean,
oh my
this
goodness.
has been in someone's collection, and I got it. So
it's hanging. Man, I just got a shiver down my spine when you told me that.
I mean, literally, he could have signed it. He could have signed it on the way to being, like right after his speech. But the fact that it's California, he only spent, back then they would have made the stickers locally. So there's no question. It's not like, oh, this was at an event somewhere else that had to be right at the primary. So,
and he was only there for a couple of days campaigning around California before the election. Wow.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.